somebody told me that some of y'all need some science fiction recommendations. So here I am. Hello my lovely friends, it's Margaret. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be recommending some sci-fi books. This is video number 2 that I am making in my genre recommendations for my Fablen TBR game. Not going to go into that now. You can find it in the card, you can find it in the description box. The main thing you need to know is that some of us have to read one science fiction book a month, and that's a lot of science fiction books in 1 year. Hence, why I am here to recommend some. This list is going to be especially for my people that are maybe a little bit newer to the genre or that read some science fiction but don't really delve into the science fiction world on a regular basis. Science fiction is definitely something that I loved as a kid, but I don't read as much of anymore. So if you have any recommendations for science fiction that you think I might like based on this list or anything else you have seen on my channel, please leave them in the comments because I have to do 10 more months of this. The first book that I will be recommending is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mohtar and Max Gladstone. This is one that I think is especially good for people that are just getting started in science fiction. This is about Red and Blue, and they are 2 people on opposite sides of a time war. They are traveling through time, working against each other, leaving little notes for each other, and their main goals in this book is they want to make sure that their future is the one that survives. The other person's future, goodbye. They're going to make sure that their future survives. However, as they kind of exchange these very antagonistic notes, a relationship starts to build up between them. This is very much a book to go to for characters and vibes, which is why I think it's really good for people who are character driven, for people who are new to science fiction. There's not a lot of world building. There's just like a little sprinkling so that you know they're from the future. You know that they're doing the time travel thing, that they have access to technology that a lot of us can't even imagine. Just enough to inform the setting and the conflict, but not a lot of, like, you're not inundated with information between these two. Some may feel that that is a detractor because there are a lot of questions that end up unanswered, but I feel like if you go into this focus on the relationship between the 2 main characters and just kind of let the setting be there as like a window dressing to make the story a little bit more sparkly, I think this will be a really good book for you. Another novel that I think is great for people who are looking for something that is a little more grounded in this world, but it kind of has a futuristic bend to it, is The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. This follows Ellie and Morris. Ellie is a human girl, and she is living in New York City as one of the few humans that are left in the city after this alien race has come and taken over and started doing, they're not quite sure what, but something is happening. Morris is kind of part of the advanced guard. They are not quite the aliens, but they are connected to the aliens, and he is here trying to do some things of his own while also trying to follow along with the expectations of this very powerful family that he is technically connected to. He discovers that Ellie has a secret library, and so he uses his knowledge of that library to blackmail her into getting him music because he is obsessed with music. I don't want to give you too much more than that because I think it's really interesting to watch how Ellie and Morris's relationship unfolds as the plot continues on. This is a really good kind of blend of the dystopian and the science fiction genres. We have aliens, but we also have this futuristic Earth where things are not like they're familiar, but they're not quite how they should be. We're seeing various different ways that society has adapted to the takeover of Earth by these aliens. One of the things that I really liked about this is that we have dual points of view between Ellie and Morris, and so we know things that Morris knows that Ellie does not, and that kind of leads to this tension that is going between the audience and the characters. Like, we're sitting there waiting for all of this stuff to kind of, all the pieces to fall into place or to blow up in their faces. We're not sure which is going to happen. I think this is really good for people who like dystopians, who like road trips, who like social commentary on social structures or parallels between social structures that we see in the present day. I think that this is really good for people who enjoy those kinds of themes in their novels. If you are looking for some more traditional science fiction, I have to recommend Leviathan Wakes by James S. A. Corey. I love this series. Every book just keeps getting better. This follows 2 different points of view. We have Miller, who is trying to solve the disappearance of this young, rich woman. We also follow James Holden and this little ragtag crew that ends up coming together because of a tragedy that happens on the ship that they were a part of, and now they are kind of sort of running from their life as Mars hunts them down because they think that they have technology or something that they're not supposed to have. There are a lot of reasons why I love these novels. Number 1, the characters are fantastic. This has my newest favorite ship in it. I love it so much. I also really appreciate the fact that this is very accessible science fiction. It's not something that gets bogged down in technical terms or description. The primary focus is on the characters and what is happening to them, and I think that really works well if you are not used to these big, dense science fiction novels. I also really love how they are able to take multiple points of view and make them part of one one cohesive story. At this point, I start books knowing that, like, no matter how weird it is that I'm getting, whichever point of view I'm getting, like, they are all going to be connected at some point. And so you're sitting there trying to put together the pieces of, okay, so how are these going to connect? Looking for those clues. I absolutely adore it. Next, I am going to go back to the dystopian camp and talk to you about The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. So this is set in the world that has had a terrible virus go through that only affected kiddos, and the kids that do survive end up irrevocably changed. They now have superpowers. There's a whole classification system and all of that goes on here, but basically all you need to know is that kids are taken from their families and put in these camps where they are put to work and where they're supposed to be being watched and controlled and contained so that they are unable to use their powers. This follows Ruby. She escapes from one of these camps and ends up finding another group of kids that are trying to, I don't even remember what the exact goal was, but they're basically traveling across the country trying to find somewhere that is safe for them. This is for my, like, if you are an X-Men fan, if a lot of the themes that you see in X-Men appeal to you, especially like early X-Men, especially like when we're talking about how people are treated when they're different, this is going to be a fantastic novel for you to be reading. I love the thought that Alexandra Bracken put into the system, to the powers that the kids had, to the way that everything works. My favorite part about it, though, is the relationship between Ruby and the three people that she finds. If you like the found family trope, I mean, a lot of these books have that found family trope, but if you like the found family trope, if you like having friends that will banter and like take the piss out of each other but still love each other at the end of the day, friends that are not afraid to call each other out but also will have each other's back, this is going to be a fantastic series for you to read. I know a lot of the dystopians that came out around this time feel like Hunger Games knockoffs, but this very much feels like its own thing, and I really appreciate that. From there, we are going to do another YA selection, and that is Iron Widow by Sharon J. Zhao. This is a futuristic reimagining of the reign of Wu Zetian. She is China's only female emperor. She ruled on her own power. Like, if you can go in and find out the history of it, really fascinating woman. This is set in the future where we have these giant kind of mech robots that are fighting against these aliens. The robots are operated by the manipulation of chi, and the girls end up paying the price for this. Their chi ends up being drained fully more often than the boys. The girls are seen as disposable and weaker and therefore less valuable. I thought the way that Sharon J. Zhao worked in history was really interesting. They really understood the assignment when you're thinking about like a retelling or a reimagining. They weren't married to the history that happened, to the events that happened. They managed to create this really interesting futuristic world that is infused with Chinese history in a way that just like really is taken a just going at a society, any society that doesn't value women as much as it values men. The way that it goes after sexism in this book, I thought that Wu Zetian was a fantastic main character for us to be following. She is so done, and yet she also is kind of, it was really interesting to see her walking this line between who she needed to be to accomplish what she wanted, which was to kill the pilot that killed her sister. I left that key detail out. She wants revenge because a pilot has killed her sister, and so she is going to be his concubine to murder him. He lasts like 2 whole seconds, and she ends up having to be paired with an even more powerful guy because she murders him without even trying. It's just fantastic. Anyways, that is all set up. That's like the first chapter of the book, okay? I'm not giving away any spoilers. But I liked her as a main character because it was really interesting seeing her walk, like, balance between knowing what she deserves, knowing what is right, knowing that she's being treated poorly, but also having to play the game to make sure that she stays safe. So if you're looking for great characters, something that is very queer, and something that has fantastic world building, definitely check this book out. Check this book up, pick this book up. We are also going to have to talk about one of my favorite sci-fi duologies to ever sci-fi. That is Warcross by Marie Lu. Oh my god, it's been so long since I read this, I don't remember the character's name. So this is about Emika Chen. She is a hacker for this game called Warcross. Warcross is like a virtual, think Ready Player One, but this does a lot of what Ready Player One tried to do, much better. In my personal opinion. But basically people spend a lot of time in this game called Warcross. It is how people Warcross is basically the new influencer culture. You have a lot of people that are playing trying to get famous, and then you have a few people that are famous, and there's this huge Warcross tournament. Emika is in there for some reason. I don't entirely remember why. She's like observing or something, but she's hacked in. She accidentally gets seen by the creator of Warcross, Hideo Tanaka, and he's like, okay, so there are these people that are doing this thing in my game. It is not supposed to be happening. I need you to help me track them down. Did I mention she is a Warcross bounty hunter? I should have mentioned that as well. You can tell that mostly I just focus on the relationships, the romances, and then I don't pay attention to any of the other plot details. The way that Marie Lu takes you from the beginning of this book to where we end up at the end, it is a journey, it is a ride, it is unexpected, and also just like mind-blowing. Even if like I figured it out maybe 75% of the way, I started to have suspicions, and I was just like, oh, okay. Like, just when it happened, the way that the reveal happened, even if you figured it out, you're still sitting there going, oh, snap. What's going on here? I love the whole duology, but especially like this one especially was my favorite of the two. I think that she does a much better job of ending this very strongly versus Wildcard. The ending of Wildcard needed maybe a little bit more, needed to maybe be a little bit, like I liked the way it ended. It just needed something else. You know what I mean? This is a really fun world to be in. I really like the setup and the way that she created this futuristic society that is basically structured around this game, much in the way that we structure our lives around social media these days. After that, I want to shout out less like a particular book and more an author, and that is Alexa Dunn. She wrote Brightly Burning and The Stars We Steal. These are both retellings. This is a retelling of Jane Eyre. This is a retelling of Persuasion. I love absolutely like both of them. I think that this fixes a lot of the maybe issues that people might have with Jane Eyre. As you can see, I have tabbed it up. So this is about a young woman who's trying to better her life, and she ends up getting a job as a teacher on this like kind of far out, like small, very private spaceship. There's a lot of weird stuff that's going on, but she's tutoring the captain of the spaceship's little sister. He has come into the captainship very early because something happened with his parents. A tragedy has happened. Both of them are gone. And then she ends up kind of having to help solve the mystery of the things that go on in this. Yeah, it's not a direct retelling of Jane Eyre, but it really does a good job of being inspired by Jane Eyre and pulling some of like the same, like it takes the relationship that I think a lot of people want Jane Eyre to be and like actually makes it that relationship. This one is set kind of in the same universe, but like 100 years earlier, and so she is trying, like the main character is part of one of these like ship families that is the captain of a spaceship, although they have kind of merged their ship with another family ship because their ship is kind of like falling apart. It's not doing so well. And so she is trying to make a marriage through this kind of bachelor type competition that the captain families go through. She's trying to make a marriage through this that will help her kind of make their ship independent again. There is a whole bunch of stuff that's going on, but in this competition, she also ends up running into an old flame that she kind of turned down because it was like not a great match for her at the time. And if you've read Persuasion, you know what's going on. Like her family didn't think he was good enough for her, and she liked him, but she's like, you know what? They're kind of right. They might have some points, and so she dumps him. She's dealing with like the financial issues that her family is going with, also this relationship drama that is happening, and she is also dealing with slight like mystery that is rising up. I love both of them. I think that Alexa does a really good job of again having accessible science fiction where the technology and the setting serve the story and the characters and not the other way around. They're very good, they're very tropey, they're very angsty and teenage, and like if you like YA romance drama, definitely read these. And the final book that I have for y'all is Renegades by Marissa Meyer. So this is set in a world where we have like this ruling class of superheroes who saved the world from the evil villains. And so we are following Nova, who was raised by these kind of disgraced villains who have been living underground, and Adrian, who is being raised by the people that killed Nova's uncle, and she blames for the death also of her parents. When I say I love this series, it is everything that I love about superhero stories, and also like just romantic angst. I love it because we have Nova, and she's trying to kind of like, she's realizing that these people that she's hated her entire life are not entirely the worst, and like some of them are actually pretty cool, but also she has her mission. She's infiltrated them because she wants to basically bring everything tumbling down from the top, and she ends up befriending Adrian. I know a lot of people are like, this is a ripoff of X-Men, and I'm just like, if you think that this is a ripoff of X-Men, then you haven't read enough comics, because there are a lot of homages to different titles, different like Marvel, DC. There's really not a specific like, there is not a specific one that she is copying. She's pulling stuff from all of them. Like one of Adrian's dads is like Batman, but with Nightwing's sense of humor, and it is absolutely fantastic. I love it so much. Like, he is just such a good character. I really enjoyed this. I really liked the structure of this superhero team and the way that these different characters ended up playing off of each other. I really like the fact that we have these two different struggles. We have Nova, who knows that the superheroes are not all that they are cracked up to be, knows that they are fallible, knows that they make mistakes, knows that they have definitely really hurt people, especially people that she cares about, but she's also kind of coming to the realization that the people that raised her, the people that she has depended on for almost her entire life, they're not perfect either, and they're not entirely, like, maybe they aren't the good guys. And then we have Adrian, who's kind of struggling to hide a few things from his dad. He's been moonlighting as this, like, secret superhero that kind of does different, like, has powers that his dads don't know that he has and don't know how he would get. Like, there is a whole thing going on there. Really, really strong trilogy. The ending is a little bit like, why did you do that to us? Because the ending makes it feel like there are more books going to happen in this series, and I really don't think there are, but it was fantastic, a wonderful ride. I loved every single minute of it. I am officially out of room. So those are my recommendations if you're looking for more science fiction, especially if you're looking for science fiction that is more easily accessible and not bogged down by technical details. I think all of these are going to be really good books to pick up. The most technical out of all of these is Leviathan Wakes, and like I said, it is done so skillfully that if there is info dump, you don't even notice that the info dump is happening until you realize that you just took in a whole bunch of information. Like, it is done so well, you are like being dragged along through the plot. If you're feeling chatty, let me know. If you have read any of these, again, don't forget to let me know if you have any recommendations. If you are not feeling chatty, but you want to let me know that you watched to the end of the video, go ahead and leave me the spaceship emoji. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoyed this video, I will have my other Fablen recommendation video that I did up here, plus whatever the newest video on my channel is. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye! A little birdie told me that some of y'all might need some science fiction recommendations. No books were harmed in the making of this video.